Dexter's world is full of killers, but not all of them deserve the same fear. From pathetic pretenders to monsters who tore Dexter's life apart, today we're ranking every Dexter villain by pure danger, level 1 through 7. Some were laughable, others nearly destroyed him, and level 7, they left scars that never healed. But what really makes one killer more dangerous than another in Dexter's universe? Is it their methods, their brutality, or how deeply they cut into Dexter's own psyche? Let's find out. Level 1 villains are all talk and no terror. Big in name, small in threat. These are people like Matt Caldwell, Levi Reed, and Stan Liddy, characters who thought they could challenge Dexter Morgan but didn't stand a chance. Levi Reed was a drunk and a drug addict, a brute who thought size made him dangerous. But Dexter handled him with one dose of M99 in a dark alley, child's play. Matt Caldwell wasn't much better, arrogant, remorseless, and reckless. He became Dexter's first victim in Iron Lake, and it didn't even feel like a challenge. A rusty Dexter, out of practice for nearly a decade, still took him down without breaking a sweat. And then there's Stan Liddy, the disgraced cop turned wannabe investigator. He got close to uncovering Dexter's secret, but lacked the nerve to finish the job. Even with Dexter tied up in his van, Liddy fumbled it. That's level 1 for you. No real strategy, no survival instinct, just fools who crossed paths with a predator they couldn't comprehend. Level 2 villains were a step up, but only barely. They could trip Dexter up for a moment, but never keep him down. These are the distractions. Seductive, obsessed, or just dumb enough to make things interesting. Lila West tops this group. Manipulative, chaotic, and dangerously obsessive, she nearly blew up Dexter's double life just because she couldn't let go. She destroyed his home, murdered Dokes, and even tried to kill his family in a fire. But Dexter tracked her to Paris and ended her story with one knife to the chest. Then there's the Skinner, whose only talent was peeling skin off his victims. Gruesome, yes, but not smart. Even after catching Dexter, he couldn't finish the job. Ray Speltzer, the muscle-bound maze killer, wasn't much better. Big, loud, and stupid, killed 3 women, thought he was invincible, and got buried by Dexter with a shovel. Level 2 killers were messy and violent, but their egos made them predictable. And predictability is death when you're up against Dexter Morgan. Level 3 villains had potential, but they were blinded by emotion. These are the obsessive types, driven by love, family, or vengeance. Miguel Prado fits perfectly here. Once Dexter's ally, then his biggest mistake. Miguel learned too much, got too confident, and started killing outside the code. Dexter had to clean up the mess, permanently. Christine Hill, Trinity's estranged daughter, also earns her spot. Desperate for her father's approval, she shot Frank Lundy and nearly killed Deborah Morgan. But her instability caught up with her, and she took her own life before Dexter could. Captain Aaron Spencer, a cop turned child abductor, also lands here. Motivated by rage over his cheating wife, he kidnapped and killed innocent kids to get revenge. He had power, but no control. Level 3 villains always have the drive to kill, but lack the discipline to survive. They could wound Dexter emotionally, but never outplay him. Level 4 is where things get dark. The sadists. These killers don't kill for passion or power. They kill for pleasure. Think Jordan Chase and his Barrel Girls gang. They kidnapped, tortured, and murdered women under his twisted take it philosophy. Chase brainwashed his followers into thinking they had the right to kill, a cult of killers that nearly destroyed Lumen and almost exposed Dexter himself. Then there's the tattoo collector, a lunatic who flayed his victims alive and kept their skin as art. Or Mia LaPierre, who blinded her victims before killing them, purely for the thrill. These were Dexter's worst nightmares made real, not because they were smart, but because they were unstoppable until someone stopped them. Dexter did. He dismantled them one by one. Level 4 villains are the embodiment of chaos. Disturbing, unpredictable, but ultimately manageable for someone as methodical as Dexter. Now we enter the masterminds, level 5. These are the killers who could truly challenge Dexter's mind. Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer, led this group with religious zealotry. Believing he was chosen by God to bring about the apocalypse, he staged elaborate murders tied to the Book of Revelation. He poisoned, decapitated, and even tried to sacrifice Dexter's son, Harrison. He came closer than almost anyone to defeating Dexter. The Gemini twins were another threat, 2 brothers who tricked everyone, even the FBI, by posing as one person. They killed in pairs, arranged victims in the shape of zodiac symbols, and nearly tracked Dexter back to his home. Al Jolly Walker was another standout, charming, sadistic, and cunning enough to flee before Dexter could strike. These killers were intelligent, meticulous, and terrifyingly patient. But Dexter's cold logic always found the cracks in their plans. Level 5 killers could shake him, but not break him. Level 6 villains? That's where the line between manipulation and mastery blurs. These are the people who didn't just fight Dexter, they got inside his head. Hannah McKay is one of the few who survived his table. She was seductive, patient, and lethal. She poisoned for convenience, killed lovers, and somehow made Dexter fall in love with her. She even drugged him and Deb, and still lived. That's power. Then there's Kurt Caldwell, the small-town king of Iron Lake. His influence let him kill for decades without suspicion. When he found out Dexter killed his son, he burned Dexter's house, kidnapped Harrison, and turned over evidence that nearly put Dexter in prison. And finally, Isaac Serco, a mob boss assassin fueled by grief and vengeance. He stalked Dexter openly, almost killed him at a donut shop, and proved that even a monster can love deeply. Level 6 villains had real control over their image, their influence, and their enemies. They made Dexter sweat. But the final level? They made him bleed. Level 7, the Apex Predators. These killers weren't just dangerous, they redefined Dexter's life. Brian Moser, the ice truck killer, was his own brother. The moment Brian returned, Dexter's world cracked. He forced Dexter to relive his mother's murder, nearly killed Deborah, and exposed the fragility of the code that guided Dexter's entire life. Trinity killer Arthur Mitchell took it further, a church-going family man by day, a monster by night. 3 decades of killing, over 250 victims, and a mask so perfect even Dexter admired it. But Trinity shattered everything when he murdered Rita, leaving baby Harrison in a pool of her blood. That was the moment Dexter's darkness became grief. And then came Oliver Saxon, Daniel Vogel, the brain surgeon, cold, brilliant, merciless. He killed his own mother, cut open victims while they were awake, and put Deborah in the hospital with a bullet that left her brain dead. He finished what Trinity started, destroying Dexter's humanity, piece by piece. These level 7 killers didn't just test Dexter's skills, they tested his soul. Each one forced him to face the truth, that maybe the most dangerous killer in Miami wasn't any of them. It was Dexter Morgan himself. And that's every Dexter villain ranked by danger, from forgettable pests to the monsters that broke him. But who do you think was Dexter's greatest threat? Drop your pick in the comments. Hit like if you enjoyed the breakdown, and make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into Dexter's dark world.
He knows how we work. Look how he hits every major theme: political, environmental, religious. In one section, he manages to weave together Julius Caesar, Berlin, Germany, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Gandhi. It's scattershot. He knew that this would send us scurrying like squirrels for nuts.
Yeah, but to suggest that he might be one of us, how can you be sure?
Would Dexter Morgan actually outsmart the FBI in real life? That is the question we are breaking down today. We all know Dexter as the Bay Harbor Butcher, a man who lived a double life as a blood spatter analyst by day and a meticulous serial killer by night. But what if we stripped away the plot armor and handed his case to the real FBI? Would he slip through their fingers, or would the Bureau's modern profiling and surveillance eventually corner him? Think back to season 2 of Dexter, when the FBI was called in to investigate the Bay Harbor butcher case under Special Agent Frank Lundy.
All right. The Bay Harbor butcher case is now a Miami Metro case, and it is shaping up to be the biggest one in our history. We're now at 14 confirmed. The FBI has sent over their top man, Special Agent Frank Lundy, to help solve this crime.
That storyline gave us a glimpse of what a federal investigation might look like. But let's push the fiction aside and ask something bigger. If Dexter truly existed, and if the FBI launched a full-scale investigation with all of today's resources, could he actually survive? Or would his flaws and slip-ups eventually betray him? That is where this story begins. The first red flag the FBI would notice is Dexter's social behavior. On the show, his inner monologues explain why he pauses, why he hesitates, and why he seems so detached in conversation.
Dex, I got this huge break in the Bay Harbor case.
Bull. I mean, really?
Guys, you're not going.
I refuse to believe that Vince Masuka is the man who single-handedly brings me down.
But in reality, no one would hear those inner thoughts. All they would see is a man staring blankly during jokes, showing no empathy during grief, and often mimicking emotions he does not feel. From a profiler's perspective, that is a huge sign of abnormality. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit studies patterns exactly like this. They look for people who fake emotions, who stay oddly calm during tragedy, and who never quite mirror genuine human reactions. Dexter checks all those boxes. In fact, James Dokes picked up on it just by gut instinct.
What about these? The hotel cokehead murders, this dealer and the girl.
Dokes, the only one who gets the creeps from me.
I'm still waiting for his spatter report on the cokehead murders. Go do that.
It's okay.
I'm watching you, mother.
Now imagine a full team of FBI profilers analyzing the same behavior. The suspicion would multiply quickly. The second red flag is Dexter's career itself. On the surface, working as a blood spatter analyst is the perfect cover. Who would ever suspect a forensic expert of being the killer he is supposed to help catch? Yet in reality, this would be a glaring conflict of interest. Every time a new body turned up, Dexter was right there in the middle of the investigation. The FBI would ask the obvious question: why is the same analyst always tied to cases linked to the Bay Harbor butcher? And when you add in the detail of the bloodslide trophies, it only grows more suspicious. In the show, characters like Maria Laguerta connected these dots with nothing more than basic police work.
Where's Jimenez now? Murdered by the Bay Harbor butcher? So who was more likely to want Jimenez dead? Dokes or Dexter? Oh, come on. No, Tom. We can't ignore the facts. The Bay Harbor butcher took blood slides from his victims. Dexter is a blood spatter analyst, and Dokes always thought there was something off about Dexter. What if Dokes was onto him? Jesus, what if Dexter is the real Bay Harbor butcher?
If she could draw the connection, a federal task force with advanced databases and technology would close that loop even faster. Surveillance is where the FBI would tighten the noose. The Bureau has far more resources than a single detective like Dokes, who often made it obvious when he was tailing Dexter. Real FBI teams can run wiretaps, place GPS trackers on cars, monitor bank and phone records, and assign multiple agents to follow a target around the clock. Every late-night trip, every unusual purchase, every missing hour would be documented. When a washed-up ex-cop like Stan Liddy managed to get close to Dexter with almost no resources,
You're Quinn's friend.
That would be me. FYI, Stan Liddy is my name.
imagine what a coordinated federal team could uncover. It would not take long before Dexter's pattern of nighttime disappearances and ocean trips raised undeniable red flags. That being said, Dexter is not an easy target. His intelligence and adaptability cannot be ignored. He is meticulous with his crime scenes, careful with his alibis, and skilled at masking his tracks. He would not go down without a fight. But intelligence alone cannot erase the human factor. Other people eventually notice. From Dokes to Deborah to Laguerta, almost every character who looked too closely at Dexter eventually discovered the truth. The problem was they never lived long enough to expose him. In real life, however, the FBI is not a single individual. It is a system, and systems keep coming even after one agent makes a mistake. Dexter can silence one detective. He cannot silence an entire bureau. So let's imagine the chase. At first, Dexter would probably continue undetected, maybe for years. Like many real-life serial killers, he could rack up dozens of victims before the FBI even linked the crimes. But once the Bay Harbor butcher case existed, once a profile was built, the countdown would begin. With every kill, the FBI would connect patterns. With every lie, Dexter would add inconsistencies. Surveillance would capture suspicious movements. Financial tracking would reveal unusual purchases. Phone records could expose late-night calls or contacts he could not explain. The web would tighten piece by piece until Dexter found himself trapped. Now comes the climax. Could Dexter still outmaneuver the Bureau? For a while, maybe. He is resourceful, clever, and thrives under pressure. He could delay the inevitable. But the FBI does not play for days or weeks. They play for years. They do not need to prove everything at once. They only need enough to corner him. And eventually, Dexter's biggest weakness would surface. He can control his actions, but he cannot control the suspicions of others. Co-workers whispering, supervisors second-guessing, friends noticing he is never home at night. All of these small cracks would build into a case too large to escape. So here is my honest estimate. Once the Bay Harbor butcher investigation was active, it would take 6 months to 1 year for the FBI to put Dexter Morgan behind bars. Without that case, he could operate for much longer, maybe even decades. But once the Bureau turned its eyes on him, the combination of profiling, surveillance, and persistence would overwhelm his carefully built mask. Dexter's brilliance might buy him time, but it would never buy him freedom forever. And that is the truth. Dexter Morgan might be a master of deception on television, but in reality, the FBI would eventually catch him. The only real question is how long it would take. Do you think he could last longer than a year once the FBI was on his trail? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into fiction colliding with reality, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories that break down the dark side of our favorite shows.
All right. The Bay Harbor butcher case is now a Miami Metro case, and it is shaping up to be the biggest one in our history. We're now at 14 confirmed. The FBI has sent over their top man, Special Agent Frank Lundy, to help solve this crime.
Dexter Morgan faced killers of every kind. Some were laughably weak, barely worthy of his table. Others, they nearly tore his entire world apart. Today, we're ranking every single Dexter villain, including the new threats from Dexter, Resurrection, from the weakest pretenders to the deadliest monsters who haunted him. Let's start at the bottom, the weakest tier. These are the so-called villains who either lacked skill, lacked brains, or simply couldn't stand toe-to-toe with Dexter.
Think this is funny?
Blood on your hands, too. Ethan Turner, Clemson Galt.
I am the last person you want to fuck with because I will
fuck you back in ways you never even imagined.
Miguel Prado from Season 3 might shock some of you. As a district attorney, he had the power to expose Dexter, but in reality, Miguel was reckless, impulsive, and easy to manipulate. He thought he could live by Dexter's code, but his arrogance sealed his fate. Next, we've got Jordan Chase's followers.
We don't love power of risk, dire. The power of take it.
I have some bad news for everyone. We're going to die. Some of us sooner than others.
Season 5's group of weak-willed enablers. Yes, they helped cover up heinous crimes, but against Dexter, they were pawns. Nothing more. Disposable. Forgettable. From Resurrection, we slide in Ronald Red Schmidt.
Take the bridge.
You sure tunnel's faster?
The so-called rideshare killer. At first, he looked like a dangerous copycat Dexter could use to his advantage. But the truth? He was sloppy, predictable, and ultimately just a stepping stone for Dexter to infiltrate something bigger. Even creepier but equally ineffective was Lowell.
Fist bump, okay. Hey,
Heard there may be a new guy.
The Tattoo Collector, a Resurrection villain obsessed with carving skin like it was art. Disturbing, sure, but dangerous to Dexter? Not even close. Now we move up the ladder. The mid-tier villains. These killers were threats. Some psychological, some physical, but they were either too flawed, too emotional, or too predictable to truly destroy Dexter. Lila Tournay in Season 2 fits this perfectly.
Find out what happened to the men responsible for your mother's murder. And what are you going to do about it?
She nearly manipulated Dexter into abandoning his code. She came closer than most to exposing his personal life. But in the end, she was obsessed, not calculated, dangerous only to Dexter's heart, not his life. Travis Marshall, the Doomsday Killer of Season 6, was chaotic and violent, yes.
What I want is to be free.
But he lacked control. Dexter dismantled him because Travis's madness outweighed his method. Isaac Serco from Season 7 deserves a higher spot for one reason: personal motive.
I believe you recently gave notice. Your feedback is important. Would you mind telling me why you quit?
Serco's vendetta against Dexter was relentless. He had the resources of the Ukrainian mob, and he nearly pushed Dexter over the edge. But love clouded Serco's judgment. That made him human. That made him vulnerable. In Resurrection, Mia LaPierre, or Lady Vengeance, deserves mention here.
82 Chateau Lafitte, 90 Romanée Conti. Someone has really stepped up their wine game.
A certain renowned sommelier gave me some pointers.
She killed with fury, with emotion, driven by her sister's tragedy. A formidable killer, yes, but unstable. She didn't have Dexter's patience, and unpredictability was her weakness. Then you have the Gemini killers, Gareth Pike and his twin.
God, how do you do it? How have you kept your secret all these years? I can't get into specifics.
Resurrection gave us the twisted thrill of siblings who kill together. More dangerous than most, but their rivalry and dysfunction limited them. Dexter exploited it, and once again, he walked away. But now, let's enter the true apex predators, the villains who left scars, not just on Dexter's victims, but on Dexter himself. Brian Moser, the ice truck killer.
Who was she? I didn't know. I watched her die.
Dexter's own brother, Season 1's shocking twist. Brian wasn't just a killer, he was family. He understood Dexter in a way no one else did. That made him one of the deadliest, because he didn't want to kill Dexter, he wanted to keep him. Arthur Mitchell, the Trinity Killer, Season 4, the man who destroyed Dexter's family.
Warmth, intimacy, he's convincing. Byron.
Arthur Mitchell.
Mitchell wasn't just deadly because of his kills. He was deadly because he infiltrated Dexter's personal life. He smiled with Dexter's son. He laughed with his wife. And in the end, he left Dexter broken, his world in ruins. For many fans, Trinity remains number one. But New Blood gave us Kurt Caldwell, a predator hiding in plain sight.
You know, there was a time when I thought you and I would be great friends. There was that time outside the tavern when you picked me up in your truck. Almost like it was fate.
Kurt lured vulnerable girls, kept them like trophies, and nearly ended Dexter's legacy. He proved that even years later, Dexter could meet someone who mirrored his darkest tendencies. Then came Resurrection and Leon Prater.
Goodness, no! I am just a huge fan.
A billionaire with resources beyond anything Dexter had faced. Prater didn't just kill, he collected killers. He ran a secret society of predators, a club where murder was currency. Leon wasn't dangerous because of his knife. He was dangerous because he built a world where killers thrived. Taking him down nearly cost Dexter everything. And finally, the shadow that lingers. The New York Ripper, Don Frampt. Barely revealed, only hinted at in Resurrection's finale. But what we saw was terrifying, Files, evidence, whispers of a killer who may outmatch them all. When resurrection continues, Framped could be Dexter's greatest challenge yet, a predator waiting in the dark. So, who's the deadliest? For some, it will always be Trinity, the man who destroyed everything Dexter loved. For others, Leon Prater's ambition makes him the most terrifying. And for those looking ahead, the New York Ripper may rewrite the list entirely. One thing's certain. Each villain tested Dexter in a new way. Some were weak, some were unstable. But the deadliest, they nearly turned the hunter into the hunted. Do you agree with the ranking? Or would you put someone else at the top? If you're still watching, drop Dark Passenger in the comments.